Hello and welcome to the Macabre Podcast Universe.
This is the podcast where we analyze franchises, sequels, universes.
Not sequels. We go it's got to be 3 or more.
Well, yeah, but that would include
sequels. Okay,
sequels
fine.
are anything after one.
I thought you meant just 2.
No.
Like
I just mean we're analyzing series and in movies, and we're trying to see how they work, how they integrate with one another, if they're good, if they're bad. And we are returning now back to our first series that we've been tackling. So we did Phase 1, then we took a break and did Mad Max.
Phase 1 of what?
Of Marvel, the cinematic universe, that is. And now we're back, and we're kicking it off with the first of Phase 2, which is Iron Man 3.
And a quick shout out to Anthony, our producer, for making such a great theme song.
Yes.
Because we recorded most of these episodes. Besides this is like the first episode we're recording
after the podcast has come out.
Yes. So we have not heard the theme song until now, and we love it.
Yeah, so big thanks to Anthony. It's very cool.
Yes.
It's way different than I thought he was going to do.
Me too. I love it.
I love it. So
yeah.
So the table is, we got to set the table a little bit cuz it's been a while. So this is Marvel's 7th movie in this series, and the last one was Avengers, and I don't think that this has happened yet, but I distinctly remember there being kind of a couple of years, this moment where people were like, okay, I think this is kind of the end of the superhero era.
Oh, okay.
And
I just don't remember the time.
Yeah, not that people were saying it's over, but they were. I heard a lot the whole thing of, well, someday the superhero genre is going to fall because it's the same as westerns. They were huge in the 50s and 60s, and then they fell.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of being talked about a little bit.
Okay.
And I think it really hits home in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And then Guardians kind of flips it all on its head, which we'll get to when we get there. But this movie, I think, is kind of one of a contributing factor to the superhero fatigue. This is my own opinion.
I've never heard of it compared to westerns. That's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah. But the thing is that superhero movies aren't like restricted to a time period or like a look.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Know? So, because I've heard that a lot.
You don't think they're constricted to a look?
No, I mean, I think they tend to be a certain look, but they don't have to. I mean, look at Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Even look at movies that are outside of the MCU; they look pretty different. Or as we saw last night, even though it wasn't good, I mean, Brightburn was much different, and that's a spin on a superhero.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just kind of seems like maybe that wasn't true, because also years before Iron Man, there was the X-Men, which were pretty popular, and Spider-Man, which was huge. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that that's a great analogy.
I also feel like it's too early to make that call, because westerns were around for so long before they kind of died off, and we're only on the 7th movie of this specific franchise, and they're already saying that. That's a little like jumping the gun.
I think Ultron is where that was like, okay, this is definitely gonna like simmer down. And it is funny watching it because, 2 months ago Endgame came out, and it's maybe by the time this episode comes out, it might be the highest grossing movie ever made.
Yeah.
So
hopefully.
Fingers crossed. It's very interesting. Do you want me to just hop in?
So you want to go first?
Yes, but you jump in when I say certain names, because I got like Shane Black, but I don't have any of his credits or anything.
I got Mr. Black.
Okay, because we got Iron Man 3. That's the movie. It's May 3rd, 2013 when this movie comes out. And this movie's nominated for Best Visual Effects, but it doesn't win. Do you know what won that year?
2013?
2013.
Did The Dark Knight Rises come out in 2012?
Yep.
Okay, then no.
Well, this one was a huge hitter at the Oscars that year. I believe it won 6 Oscars, and it was...
Don't say... Have I seen it?
Well, I'll tell you this. The filmmaker also directed a Harry Potter movie. Big giveaway.
Oh, it's Gravity.
Gravity wins Best Visual Effects.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then this one is directed by Shane Black, which leads me to you.
Okay, so Shane Black has been around the block. More as a writer than a director.
Yes.
He has directed. I'm going to start with director.
Okay.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, 2005. First movie he directed. Still have never seen it.
That's his first.
Yes.
And that teams him with Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
Which makes a lot of sense
which
why
leads
they
into
work
his
together.
Second directed movie, Iron Man 3.
That's his second, huh?
I'll verify. But then
no, you're right. You're right. Because I remember looking at his filmography a while ago. And
very small for directing. Yeah. Then you have Nice Guys, a movie I couldn't finish. It was so boring. And then...
A lot of people love that movie. I don't.
Thought it was so boring.
But it might be worth a rewatch. I don't know.
Then you have The Predator that came out
last
2018.
Year. Yeah.
Writing, though, he is Mr. Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. Did he write all 4?
Yes.
Wow.
And he was 22 years old when he sold that script.
Wow.
And then, I'm reading trivia, and like we were just talking about, sometimes I feel like people just put that there because like they've just kind of fabricated it or it's a rumor.
Yeah.
But I did read something that like at some point in his career, he like went on a little hiatus because of the pressure of writing, because he became like the biggest writer of Hollywood.
I think I've heard that, yeah.
And I think part of it was because he's like, I don't think he's like, I'm just done writing action. That's like all I'm known for. That's all people want from me. So I think he took a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
At one point, because he was just the pressure of that expectation.
Interesting.
But he also has a writing credit for Last Action Hero.
Are you gonna hit his like first writing credit?
Lethal Weapon.
Because he did Predator.
Oh, maybe I just skipped it.
The original Predator, he's either one or two of the writers, and he's in the movie as well.
I mean, I'm gonna look again because I don't remember seeing it.
And that's like what gets him his start. So, and then I believe it's a Lethal Weapon after that. But one thing, as Jordan's looking this up, the thing to note about his movies are he's super good at like the buddy aspect of the movies.
He doesn't have a writing credit for that.
Really?
Not on IMDb. It's Lethal Weapon, The Monster Squad, Lethal Weapon 2.
Man, I messed up. I believe he's in the movie, though, because he has like some sort of attachment.
Yeah, he's acting credits.
Credits. He has an attachment to Predator, which is...
he's Hawkins in Predator.
Okay.
I don't know who that is.
He is, he's one of the commandos.
So
I remember
involved.
Like part of him directing and writing this new Predator movie, there was an excitement because it's like, oh, he was involved in the original.
I mean, he was involved.
Yeah. So, but the thing about his movies is a lot of them take place during Christmas. Iron Man 3, no exception. And he's really good at the quippy and buddy element, and he also is very good at writing detective stories, because Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, detective.
Okay.
The Lethal Weapon movies, all like detective police movies.
Nice Guys.
And then this movie is, which I'm sure we'll get into more, but watching this after watching all these movies, it's a pretty fascinating movie because it is kind of a little bit of a detective noir story, and there's like it's not too much into the noir elements.
But I think it's on a larger scale.
Yeah, but it has it's like if you switched Iron Man to Batman, it just makes sense. The world's greatest detective, because he's like trying to figure out this terrorism stuff, and there's a switcheroo with the villain and all this, and the plot is so convoluted, but that's like how that not genre confusing. Works. You know,
saying it's convoluted is true, but it's also like it's not hard to follow.
Yeah, but I don't mean it convoluted in a negative sense.
I know. Yeah. I'm just saying that.
But anyway, so it's interesting how unique this movie is to the franchise as a larger whole.
Yeah.
But anyway, did you have more on him?
No.
Okay. This one is sole producer. We got Kevin Feige. We got the man himself. We got screenplay by Drew Pearce, who wrote Hotel Artemis and Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
Already like the guy.
And also Shane Black wrote it as well. We got Brian Tyler on music, Eagle Eye, Fast and Furious. Cinematographer, John...
Is Eagle Eye a good movie?
I have not seen either of those movies.
Isn't Eagle Eye the Shia LaBeouf movie?
Yes.
I remember liking it. I wonder what I think now.
Cinematography, we got John Toll, and this is Tropic Thunder, Breaking Bad, Thin Red Line. So they hired a very good cinematographer.
The movie does look really good.
It looks great.
Very gritty.
Very gritty, yes. We got distributed by Marvel Studios, and then production budget. Now the budgets are starting to get high on these movies. So this one is $200 million.
Okay.
And then domestically, the movie makes $409,013,994. Worldwide, the movie makes $1,214,811,252. So anytime a movie can cross $1 billion, I mean, there's only I think 20 movies that have crossed $1 billion or something like that.
Okay.
It's below 50. I know it's below 50. So
it was a hit, you're saying?
It's a huge hit. And then I noticed, so we talked about in the previous one how Paramount had the distributing rights, and then Disney bought it and came in a little bit late to the game. But anyway, this movie, there was a conflict between Paramount and Walt Disney. And
Walt Disney himself?
And Walt, yeah, his cryogenically frozen head was in the jar like in Futurama, and he was given the orders. But there was a conflict, and so it I think they had to push the movie back, or they had to change the timing, and so
was it distribution rights or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then October 18th, 2010, Disney agreed to pay Paramount. I have in my notes at least $115 million for distribution rights. So, but they still have the logo on the movie, because I'm wondering when the Paramount logo goes away, because it's on, I don't think it was on Avengers, but it's in the others, and then it's in this movie. But I think from here on out we get no more Paramount logos. It's all Marvel and Disney, and all they do is just the Marvel logo. They don't have anything else.
Honestly, I don't even think about that stuff. That's why you're a production guy.
Well, I think it's so fascinating. It's also funny. It's kind of cool and it's clean when you watch a Marvel movie, because it's just like Marvel, the 10 years, the movie starts. It's awesome. And then you watch a movie like Brightburn, which I found out the production was $6 million on that movie, which is kind of crazy.
That's when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, okay, how much did Elizabeth Banks make?
Right.
Because she's a big actress. And then she wasn't the only one I recognized.
Right. I wonder if they do maybe she gets paid, she gets some points or credits.
Oh, yeah.
So,
that kid's an Endgame, by the way.
Right. He's Ant-Man's little...
He's a little version of Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but this
I don't want to talk about Brightburn.
Yeah.
Goodness.
But that movie had, I don't know, I think it was 5 or 6 logos at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which is just oh my gosh. But a lot of times the smaller the budget, the more logos you're going to see.
Definitely.
Because they have to go through a lot more studios. So Jon Favreau directed the previous 2 Iron Man movies. And he didn't want to he opted to not direct this movie because he was going to direct Magic Kingdom. Have you heard of this?
I mean, I read about that. What is Magic Kingdom again?
So Magic Kingdom is a section in Disney World.
Yeah.
And so the idea behind this movie, it was going to be
the animals, right?
Yeah.
Kay.
No, that's Animal Kingdom. Magic Kingdom is Disney World, like what Disneyland is, but in Disney World, what they call it. It has the castle and all that stuff.
Okay. So Fantasyland?
No, it's like everything that Disneyland, because Disney World is 8 times the size of Disneyland.
Yeah.
So take the Disneyland park, put it in Disney World, and the whole park, and that is Magic Kingdom. Then you have
what's
Animal
the movie?
Kingdom. So the movie is it's Night at the Museum in Disney, with the Disney characters coming to life.
And how come it was never made?
I don't know.
Because I'm kind of interested.
I know, it sounds interesting. And then writers Shane and Drew Pierce wanted to focus less on... Oh, yeah. So
wait, what if Lion King comes out? and it's just Magic Kingdom?
And they zoom out, and there's these kids with that would be... I would go see it then.
Me too.
So Shane Black and Drew Pierce wanted to focus on less magic and space and more technology and real world.
Love
in
it.
This movie.
I feel like that's especially perfect for Iron Man.
Yes. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And they wanted to avoid scenes of exposition. And then I have a couple of longer things to say, and then I can shut up for a while. So I found this interview on Up Rocks.
Okay.
And And I thought it was really fascinating. It's with Shane Black, the director. So the interviewer says Rebecca Hall's character does have an abrupt ending, and he says, all I'll say is this. On the record, there was an early draft of Iron Man 3 where we had an inkling of a problem, which is that we had a female character who was the villain in the draft. Talking about Rebecca Hall. We had finished the script, and we were given a no-holds-barred memo saying that cannot stand, and we've changed our minds because after consulting, we've decided that toys won't sell as well if it's a female. And then the interviewer says, what? And he says, so we had to change the entire script because of toy making. Now, that's not Feige, that's Marvel corporate, but now you don't have that problem anymore. And then the interviewer says, Ike Perlmutter is gone. I don't know who that is, but he says, Shane Black says, yeah, like Ike's gone, but New York called and said that's money out of our bank. In the earlier draft, the woman was essentially Killian, the Guy Pearce character.
Okay.
And they didn't want a female Killian. They wanted a male Killian. I like the idea, like a movie I haven't seen as well, Remington Steele. You think it's the man, but at the end, the woman has been running the whole show. They just said, no way. And then the interviewer says, I like the Remington Steele comparison. That would have been great. And he says, I remember Remington Steele probably better than it is, but just so you know, too, I'm a Kevin Feige fan. If you ever say anything about decisions made at Marvel, I hope you'll qualify it by saying that Kevin Feige is the guy who gets it right. And I don't know if it was Ike. I don't know who it was. They never told me who made the decision. We just got that memo one day, and it was about toy sales. That's all I know.
Whoa. Whoa,
is that
buddy.
Not wild?
That's crazy.
So because of toy sales, Rebecca Hall's character is not the bad guy in the movie. I mean, she's like sort of bad, but she's not the main bad guy. That was his idea, is that she would be behind all of it.
That's...
So they had to rewrite it.
Is it just like people aren't going to want to buy a toy villain that's a woman?
That's what the toy company said.
Okay, I don't really know what to say to that.
I know, it's weird. And then...
why can't a woman be a villain? What's wrong with that?
I don't know. It won't sell as a toy, apparently. That's what is wrong with it.
Okay. Next thing.
And then finally, this is my last note. This is another quote, I believe, from Shane Black. Invariably, we'd shoot... This is about the how they did the suit in Iron Man 3. Because it's kind of progressed. They started a little more practical with fewer CGI and then more CGI. So this one, he says... Invariably, we'd shoot a soft suit with Robert, then we'd also put tracking markers on his trousers. He would also wear lifts in his shoes or be up in a box so he'd be the correct height. Iron Man is 6'5".
What?
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, sorry.
Iron Man.
Yeah. I'm like, Tony Stark. You're telling me that this whole time you're trying to convince me that Tony Stark is 6'5".
No.
When Gwyneth Paltrow is taller than him.
Yeah. So then during shooting, we use multiple witness cams, Canon C300s, and we had 2 or 3 running whenever there was an Iron Man or Extremis character. So,
okay.
Kind of cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that's all my production notes, and that's all the time we have. So thanks.
Oh, that's not true, because I spent too much time looking at people's filmographies.
This is perfect, because I'm parched.
Okay, because this movie has new characters, obviously, but like these new characters have already had quite an extensive career beforehand. And I'm not talking about the people we've talked about in the last 2 movies. So I'm starting with like Guy Pearce.
Mm-hmm.
I just had to pick and choose because he's been in so much stuff.
Right.
A lot of it back then I feel like was like Australian stuff.
Yeah.
And then like the first thing I noticed was a movie called Dating the Enemy in 1996, which is a body switching movie.
Oh, wow.
So I'm kind of into it.
Yeah, Freaky Friday.
And then...
Everyone heard those 2 burps.
Dang it.
Don't even try to get away from those 2 burps.
A year after that, 1997, he's in LA Confidential. And then in the year 2000, he's in Rules of Engagement and Memento.
Yeah.
Memento, I feel like really... I feel like he was already popular at this point, but I feel like Memento really...
Mm-hmm.
Like makes like people are intrigued by him.
Yeah.
And then you have Count of Monte Cristo, which I don't remember him.
Yeah, he's the bad guy. That's the first movie I saw him in. He's the guy who takes his name and like takes his girl, and then he comes back to get him.
Who's the guy?
Jim Caviezel.
That's all I remember is that guy.
That's a good movie.
Yeah,
I like that movie.
And then he's in Hurt Locker in 2008, The Road in 2009. He's in King's.
He's in The Road.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman, the
he's not
Viggo Mortensen movie.
Yes.
Wow, I don't remember him in that.
Me neither, but he's in it.
He's probably a bad guy.
Yeah. And then he's in King's Speech and Don't Be Afraid of the Dark in the year 2010. And then after that is Prometheus and Lawless in 2012. And then you have Iron Man 3. So I kind of find interesting is like Iron Man 3, I just feel like is just another footnote in his career. It didn't really like, people already loved Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
Which I think is a pretty good casting choice for that reason.
Mm-hmm. And you could argue that he is the prequel to his character in Prometheus.
Yeah. We did argue that.
Yeah.
And we're probably right.
Yeah, no, we are.
So then Rebecca Hall, who we were talking about previously, she's the one who was in the very beginning of the movie in Switzerland in that flashback with Robert Downey Jr. She's had a pretty good career as well. I did find interesting that most of the movies she's in are terribly rated.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, she's also in just like very terribly or mediocre rated. So my highlights of her: Prestige, The Town, and Everything Must Go. Have you seen Everything Must Go with Will Ferrell?
No.
2010 movie. And then I had to put Transcendence in 2014.
Oh, yeah.
It is the year after. What a terrible movie.
Yeah.
I hate that movie. And then Ben Kingsley, who is the Mandarin. Also just a guy that has such a prolific career even before, like well before this movie. He's in a lot of British TV early on in his career. What really put him on the map, I'm assuming, is Gandhi, which he won the Oscar for in 1982. And then he's in Schindler's List, 1993, Species, 1995. I guess he's in Artificial Intelligence. His voices, it just said specialist voice.
Huh.
So I don't know. And then he's in Lucky Number 11, The Love Guru in 2008.
Oh boy. Woof.
And then in 2010, he's in Shuttered Island and Prince of Persia. And then in 2011, he's in Hugo, which I did not know, but I've also not seen it.
Okay, and then Iron Man's his next one?
And then that's in 2011. He's been in stuff like before that, but nothing that I thought was of note.
Nothing notable, yeah.
Yeah. I'll save this other thing for last, but yeah.
Okay. That's who you're hitting up on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought those are just the most important.
Okay. So should we dive into the movie then?
Sure.
Let me pull up my note. So this movie opens with "I'm blue, abadi abadai," because they're trying to say it's 1999, and I mean they are literally trying to say that because it's 1999. So it does that, and then we have a sequence that shows Tony partying. Happy's there. We meet Rebecca Hall. We meet Guy Pearce, and Guy Pearce wants to he's this crazy looking scientist, and he's like, I want to work with you.
But he wants to. He is a fan of Rebecca Hall.
Yeah. Oh, originally, that's right.
Originally, but I think he also knows who Tony Stark is. Mm-hmm. But he's impressed with what she's doing.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that Robert Downey Jr. is narrating sort of throughout the movie.
Yeah, well, you remember why.
Well, yeah, because of the end. But, I just think it's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Because I think it's more of a mood setter. It doesn't really do anything. You could take the narration out, and it doesn't affect the story.
No, but I think it affects the mood. Isn't that what you just said?
Yes.
Well, because this movie's about him,
yes,
becoming Iron Man. So you're in his head. The theme. So I kind of like that. And I'm
not against it. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah. It's also the trope of a detective story, the detective narrates. So, but they do it in a lesser because they don't want it to be.
It's 3 times throughout the movie. That's it.
Yeah, and then at the post-credit scene, you see him and Bruce, and he's been telling Bruce the story, Bruce Banner, and he fell asleep during it. And
the interesting trivia thing that I found, a different post-credit scene that they were originally going to do.
What was it?
The post-credit scene was originally meant to have Tony Stark blasting off into space to meet the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Whoa.
Iron Man was going to have a cameo role in Guardians of the Galaxy, an homage to his being the Guardians' latest member in the comics, I guess. But
Glad those things didn't happen.
I know. But this was scrapped when Robert Downey said he may not reprise his role as Tony Stark in the future.
That he said that?
Yeah. I mean, some part of that, it's like, is how much is that part true?
But I mean, he is probably thinking, I've been in an Avengers movie and 3 Iron Man movies. How much more of these am I getting?
And then they just keep giving him paychecks.
So there's some good stuff here. What do we want to talk about plot wise in this movie?
Well,
because there's a lot.
What's the importance? So they show. What's the importance of them showing the flashback with Rebecca Hall? You see that what she's working on. I'm a little muddy on that, but like
she's working on modifying genes,
and she's using it.
Genes.
And you see a plant, and like Happy messes up the plant, and it regenerates. It like grows back the leaves immediately.
Uh-huh. Then it explodes, and he tackles Robert Downey Jr. while he's getting down with Rebecca Hall, which is kind of funny.
But then in the morning, after their night of love,
if you can even call it that,
Tony writes an equation on the back of a thing that is supposed to help her issue because she's been having issues with her work, and he wrote her an equation that I think made it work.
Yes. Well, to a degree.
To a degree.
We find out it doesn't quite work.
Yes, right.
I didn't realize that the plant explodes and the people explode as well. I didn't put that together.
Yeah.
That makes it cooler. That's cool.
Yeah. So then going to the present, you have Iron Man who is through conversations he just has been like tinkering away on new suits, and he just has dozens and dozens of new suits, and a lot of it is he can't just stop working on stuff. And you realize because he has a conversation with Don Cheadle. I know I'm skipping over some stuff, but he has severe anxiety and PTSD from Avengers because aliens were introduced in Avengers. And I think it's interesting that they touch on it. They're like, there are now extraterrestrial beings in the equation.
His whole thing is this kind of touches into like a later thing I was going to do. But this goes right along with what you're saying is he is so obsessed with control.
Yes.
So for him, in every movie, it reaches a point where it's out of control and he finds value in different things. We'll cover that in Tracking the Arc. But he's looking and he's finding out that there's aliens and that life is not out there, and he needs to like protect the Earth
and Pepper, and most of all Pepper.
Yes, yeah, and so he's losing control.
Yeah,
and so he's anxious, and there's that great scene where him and Don Cheadle are at the bar, and the kids come up and they're like, Iron Man, can you sign this? And they drew a picture of him driving that like that missile up into the nuclear bomb up into the wormhole in Avengers. And he freaks out and he writes, "Help me, Susan," or whatever the little girl's name is, like on accident, and the crayon breaks. And I mean, Downey always brings it in this movie, but that moment when the crayon breaks and he's like, "I broke the crayon."
Yeah.
And then he freaks out. Yeah. And oh man, that's when you're like, this is a good movie.
Yeah, they're dealing with really interesting stuff, which with Iron Man, they just continue to deal with interesting stuff. Iron Man 1 is about business. And then Iron Man 2 is about people trying to weaponize his work and him trying to not do that, like to steer it away from weaponizing and potentially creating war. Because of his research. Then you have Iron Man 3, where, like you said, it's just it becomes more personal every time.
Yeah.
So then to backtrack a little bit.
Yes.
Don Cheadle, who was War Machine, recently got like a new brand for his Iron Man suit. And it's like red, white, and blue now. And I think that's interesting that they showed like newscasters talking about like, oh yeah, so they painted it and he's still not supposed to be threatening.
Yeah, and they changed it. So he was called War Machine, and then they're I like this idea. I love when superheroes, kind of like the Tick Show, they like take everyday practical ideas. Because, the superhero is such a big idea. But to go like, if this really existed in the real world, and there was a guy named War Machine, and he worked for the military, of course they would do studies to find out like what he should be called. And like rebranding his suit.
Focus groups,
And so the fact that they're like, oh, we're calling him the Iron Patriot now because it tests better in focus groups, And the whole movie, like Don Cheadle's kind of like, no, I really like that name, and Robert Downey's like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
War Machine's way better, and I like that kind of stuff. Really, that grounds fantasy more to me than like physics and science. That kind of stuff is a little more interesting.
Well,
to me.
like in Iron Man 2 when he's at that press conference. No, it's not a press conference, but all of those.
Oh, the hearing,
the hearing, Congress hearing, where they're basically demanding him to give them what he has created for combat.
Right.
It's like the government's involved every time.
Yeah.
And it's like, why wouldn't the government be involved?
Yeah.
Because it's people's lives are threatened now. Right. Just by the fact that these things exist, they're threatened, potentially.
Right.
Yeah. So then, Pepper, meanwhile, for this, she CEO of Stark Industries. Happy is now also the head of security of Stark Industries, and she has a meeting with Killian, whatever his name is, who is Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
And from the beginning of the movie, the flashback, he is like super nerd, like really gross hair. He's even wearing glasses. Yeah. He's got a limp. He's kind of, they paint him as a loser.
What? He has a limp, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. That is even cooler because we find out later in the movie that he has used the genetic modifier, so his limp is gone now.
Yeah, because he's like
his
perfect.
Genes are...
No, not perfect, but he
That's so
he's
cool.
physically better. So he's in Pepper's office with her, and he looks great. He looks suave.
Good.
He's.
I mean, he's Guy Pearce at the top of his game.
He's Guy Pearce at the top of his game. So he's trying to pitch to her. I don't know.
Using this technology, and she is concerned that it will be weaponized, which again is good series. I mean, the Iron Man series, we're going, yeah, this is really good because they're carrying ideas that have been in the other two movies and they're not betraying them. So it makes sense that Gwyneth Paltrow or Pepper Potts is worried that something would be weaponized. Like in Iron Man 2, they wanted to weaponize his suit. So all of this stuff is checking out as far as the world that they've built.
Yeah, so she says no. And then beyond that, so she gets home. This is Christmas time. Robert Downey Jr. bought her a giant stuffed rabbit. That's around the same time, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
Like that.
And that's when they kind of have a conversation of like, he's like, I can't sleep. I can't do anything but work because I'm afraid I'm going to lose you.
Yeah. And he's just anxious about like this like PTSD.
Yes. And they show that they're sleeping and he is having a dream, and one of the Iron Man suits he created, he doesn't have to be inside of it to operate it. And it Pepper's trying to wake up Tony, but the suit comes and like braces her as if because it's like
she's attacking
the suit
him.
Was triggered like she might be attacking him.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, so yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. I can't remember.
Well, they just, you're just seeing that he even his work now is becoming like
paranoid.
Yeah, and the things he's creating are not like what they should be because he's not functioning well. He's not well in this movie.
No.
And then somewhere in there there's we're introduced to the Mandarin.
Yeah. This is going on throughout the whole first act.
Yeah, and we're seeing footage of this terrorist, and he talks kind of like this. And the way Ben Kingsley chose to talk with this character, amazing.
Yeah.
You're like, man, this guy's really, really freaky. And again, setting the stage a little bit. And I looked this up today. The Mandarin is Iron Man's arch nemesis.
Okay. So
people are going into this movie, especially Iron Man fans, and they're going, this is like the Green Goblin to Spider-Man, the Joker to Batman. Like, we're seeing the Mandarin.
Interesting.
Versus Iron Man. So they're very, very excited. Bated breath. They can't wait for the showdown. And then we'll get back to that. But I'm just trying to plant the seeds of like what the nerd culture was feeling at the time.
Yeah. So
because this movie gets a lot of backlash.
Yeah, that makes sense now. So like he's a lot of bombings are going on throughout the world, and there's no trace of what the bomb is, who's doing it, and the Mandarin is claiming responsibility for all of these bombings.
And the footage is kind of reminiscent of like those old Osama bin Laden footages that we saw when we were kids. Like on the news when he would be like, "I'm still after you, America," and stuff like that. Did you not see that
My
stuff?
parents probably didn't want us to watch it.
Yeah, it had that vibe to it. It's kind of unsettling.
Yeah, it is. They do a really good job of like subliminal messaging.
Yeah.
So he's a terrorist. I guess we can say that simply.
Yeah.
So Iron Man or Tony is also trying to figure out what's going on here. Mm-hmm. Like he's doing his own research to see who is. I mean, he knows it's the Mandarin, but like, who is the one bombing?
Yeah. Well, and then there is the bombing, where Happy has been following this guy.
Yes.
And the man takes some stuff and he explodes.
Yes.
And Happy survives, but then at that point, these reporters are pressuring Tony, and he's like, "You know what? Here's my address." 399 Malibu Way. Mandarin, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to find you and I'm going to kill you.
Did he say kill you?
Yeah.
Oh.
So he says something along those lines. But I think he says kill. And did I skip anything you were saying?
No.
Okay, because then they're back at the house, and that's when the Mandarin attacks his house and starts shooting missiles.
Before that happens, Rebecca Hall shows up. And this is the first time Tony has seen her since 1999 in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So it's like, how in the world? I mean, of course, she found him because he broadcasted his address. But like, what are you doing here? She's trying to explain. Pepper's also trying to get them to leave because he just compromised their house.
Yeah.
And as they're arguing, there is a missile coming towards the house.
Yeah. Which
very intense, cool sequence.
Well, and one of my favorite parts is these missiles start hitting his house, which is kind of overlooking the ocean. Mm. And the whole movie not the whole movie, but earlier he'd been working on this new technology where he could command his suit to appear to him or go places. And so it's all slow motion. It's really dusty because things are blowing up. And he shoots his suit to Gwyneth Paltrow, and it catches her slow motion in the air. And then he gets just enough so that he's not hurt. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And this whole sequence is just Gwyneth Paltrow is in a suit and she's trying to help
Rebecca Hall get out of the house while Tony is trying to figure this out. And they do a really good job in the sequence to show panic.
Yeah.
Because there's not one moment of them being able to take a breath of fresh air. They just keep shooting and shooting and shooting the house, and to the point where the house is falling off the cliff
with Tony in it.
With Tony. Even when he has his Iron Man suit on, he's being pinned on the bottom of the ocean. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a panic attack to watch it.
Yeah.
But it's so well done.
Yeah. And then the whole thing, he gets pinned at the bottom of the ocean, and then his suit uncouples and grabs him, his hand, his glove grabs him and pulls him out. He helps himself. It's so cool.
Yeah. And then immediately, because earlier he was doing research on the Mandarin bombings, and he directed a flight path to a certain place in Tennessee, the suit just takes him there. Yeah. And he's passed out at this point, and he has no control over where it's going. So he wakes up in Tennessee, right?
Yeah, Tennessee.
And I like the change up because it's a call to Act 2. We're now in Act 2. Yeah. And even as me watching it's why is he in Tennessee again? But immediately it's Jarvis is telling him
and Jarvis is powering down. The suit's losing power.
So he has no way to get back. Tony has no way to get back.
And he doesn't want to get back because he'll die if he gets back, or kill Pepper Potts by just being around because he threatened Mandarin. Yes. And then he meets the kid from Jurassic World, and they have fun together, right? Well, this is good. They just I just forgot to say, there was that sequence earlier that just where he's investigating the crime scene virtually.
Yeah.
That Happy was at, and it's really cool, and it reminds me of playing the Arkham Knight video games. And that's just cool. Just a side note, I just think that's a really cool, and if they more stuff like that should happen in movies. I like that. But we're in Tennessee, and I think it's smart to take Iron Man into a rural area where he is forced to not use his suit.
Yes. He can only use just invest into his investigative skills. And the reason why he is taken to this small town in Tennessee is because a bombing had happened at this town.
Yeah.
So he finds this, he comes across this kid. This kid takes him to the site, and the site is so interesting because it's, you know, they know who did the bombing. It was like this ex-military guy, but like it was a shock.
Yeah.
Right. So like, and the site, the memorial of the site, I really thought it was really well done. Like all of the victims' shadows are burned into the wall.
Yeah. And
because
that's when
of the explosion.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
That's when the kid says, because Iron Man says to the kid, he goes, so there's 5 shadows, but including the bomber, there were 6 people. And the kid goes, well, there's a rumor at town that the shadows are the souls
going up to heaven.
of the innocents that are going up to heaven, and the bomber doesn't have a soul, so he went to hell.
Yeah.
And that's why his shadow's not there. But it's also very cool, detective, that's the clue.
Yes.
And that's when he starts kind of figuring out, like, this is a person that's, like, exploding.
Yes.
And also he has another panic attack.
Which I think they had assumed a long time ago that this was a suicide bombing situation, but there just were no traces of a bomb.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't even figure out what, like, the beginning of a technology to investigate into.
Yeah.
So Tony meets up with the bomber's mom, and she has a file on him. And as he's there and talking to her, he's realizing that she didn't come here to meet him. Someone else was coming to meet her. So
I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, because
that makes sense.
Remember at the end of their conversation, kind of, he's like, "You're not here for me, are you?" Just by like the way she was talking.
That makes
the way
I
she
think
was
I was a little
responding to him.
confused in that scene because I think I like got some water or something during that scene.
Yeah, you don't get water during a detective movie.
No, I didn't. I was trying to cover for the fact that I missed something.
Okay, so this woman comes up claiming to be from Homeland Security, and then she immediately just starts killing people.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, so she's not, and she is kind of on fire. Like her skin is getting really bright, like the guy who bombed the other bomber.
And I'm not a fan of the design of the fire people.
No.
I like the idea. I wish there was a different way to show it that wasn't... I wish there was a practical way to do it. Because I think it just looks kind of bad.
Yeah. I'm also just kind of like, I don't care, it's a superhero movie, so that's kind of what you get.
Yeah, but you again... I always think of this when I want to do like practical stuff, but if there was like a cool like John Carpenter-y kind of effect,
yeah,
I don't know what it would be, but I don't know. I feel like you could make someone, or maybe even if they, you know that when you put like a flashlight behind your ear or in your mouth and you turn red, like maybe if they made it look like that.
I thought that's what they were trying to do,
but they did. It didn't work.
Yeah, I don't really know what fix for that one.
Yeah, we'll have to ask the FX, the CGI artist on that YouTube channel about it.
There you go. Let's do that.
Hey guys, how would you make it better?
So then she's trying to get Tony because obviously she knows, one, that he's Tony Stark. Also, he's on their trail.
Yeah,
just trying to eliminate him.
This all has like a very Terminator
she
vibe
gets eliminated.
Too.
And then that other guy who's like Guy Pearce's right-hand guy is also there, but he gets away.
Yeah, he gets away.
He gets away.
But yeah, this all feels very Terminator to me, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And especially him being like from the 80s, like Shane Black. There's something about like the sensibilities of the town and the action sequence in that set piece in particular that's very 80s. But not in a
definitely
rip-offy kind of way, just in a like that's the sensibilities, yeah.
And they definitely keep the comedy rolling just throughout the whole movie because Tony is so sarcastic and quick. Remember when he's handcuffed and he's running away and there's this guy like just hiding behind a car clinging to a Christmas tree, and Tony just looks at him. He's like, "Crazy stuff, huh?" And the guy's just like, "Yep."
Yeah, he's like drunk
and then
or passed out on the floor.
No, he's just trying to hide because people are getting killed.
Oh, that makes more sense too. I think this scene maybe went over my head a little bit.
Maybe you were getting some more water. So then he gets away from them. He gets a car. He starts driving home? Is that his intent?
I don't know where he was.
But he has the car he takes are the bad guy's car, so they have files in the car. So he starts looking at the files of these bombers, and at the same time he calls War Machine and is asking him questions about
his password so he can hack into the main exterminator drive.
Is it because he needs names or something?
Something.
Well, he realizes...
Why does anyone hack them?
I'm not going to get too far into that stuff. Just watch the movie for the detective stuff. Anyway, meanwhile, during all of this, the kid is working on his suit, trying to get it back to life.
Yeah.
Doing a pretty good job at it, too.
Yeah. Then
we like this movie so much, but there's just not a ton to say.
It's just like, how much on a podcast do we just recap every event, or do we just kind of skip ahead and skip, because hopefully they've seen the movie.
I say let's skip ahead.
Let's just, he spends time there. There's a funny scene with
oh, you're starting to recap everything.
No, I am, but okay, this I'll bring it to something that's more interesting than recap. There's a scene where Tony has to use this satellite on a cable car, the newscasting, and the guy walks in and he's like, "Oh my gosh,
Adam Pally,
yeah, you're Iron Man," and he shows him a tattoo that he has of Tony Stark, and then
his facial hairs and his hair is like Tony Stark.
Yeah, and he's like, "I've shaped my whole look after you," and once again, that kind of like the Iron Patriot thing I was talking about earlier. That's another thing that grounds it.
Yes.
Because of course he'd be a celebrity.
Yes.
And there would be people who'd live in Tennessee who'd be like, "I'm going to be like Iron Man. Like, I got this cool goatee like him. I got a tattoo of him. Like, he's everything." So that kind of stuff is very cool. I love that kind of stuff.
I love it too. It's great. While Tony Stark is in this town and all this stuff's going on, Gwyneth Paltrow and Rebecca Hall get kidnapped by Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
Fast forward to what's going on there. Gwyneth Paltrow is being injected with the fire serum.
Yeah,
I don't know what else it's called. Yeah. Rebecca Hall is now working again for Guy Pearce, because originally she was trying to tell Tony because she works for him. So she's like, he's bad. I want to help Tony. I want to help the good guys.
Yeah.
Now that she's captured those, she has to continue to work for the bad guys, and she's justifying it in terms of this is my life's research, and the only person willing to fund it was the bad guy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of well, at what cost? Because now your research is killing people. And she's even claiming, when Tony's captured and they're having a conversation, she's like, I can leave at any time. Which isn't true, because Guy Pearce kidnapped her back.
Yeah.
I know he also meant to kidnap Gwyneth too, but it's an interesting dialogue that they have. Where it's sure, she might be able to walk off the property for a little bit, but she can't just leave.
Right.
Guy Pearce needs her.
Right. But then he kills her, so I guess he doesn't need her.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
but let's okay.
Yeah, we did skip a part.
We're getting into the weeds on the plot. But what I want to talk about, the linchpin of this movie, is the scene where Iron Man breaks into Mandarin's compound, and of course, again, the fans are sitting in the theater and they're going, Here we
go.
This is Mandarin. Oh my gosh, can't wait. And he comes in, and there's this odd man who has a Cockney accent that is the man on the screen, and he's like, "Oh, what's going on? I don't know." And you find out that this big bad guy is an actor named Trevor. And he got hired to just be a front, and he's not.
He was
Mandarin.
An actor drug addict, and Tony's like, "Oh, so they said they would clean you up for this job?" And he's like, "No, they said they'd give me more."
And the scene is hilarious.
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw it, I just thought it was hilarious. Such a great scene.
I loved it.
But then when I left the theater, hearing the overall Reaction, people were like, "I hate this movie. That's the worst Iron Man movie. It sucks." they ruined Mandarin.
And my argument, as someone who doesn't read the comics, so I, of course, had no preconceived notion, no idea who the Mandarin is. You basically could have just told me that they made up this character for this story. I love it because it goes against superhero, like...
Yeah, it's like a fresh thing.
Yes, it felt very fresh, and it was like it
still feels fresh watching it again. And to the person that's like, they gotta stick to the comics, I do think you have to do that, but guess what, everybody? It's an adaptation. It's not supposed to be the comic book.
Mm-hmm. And they never claimed that they're doing exactly. Cool. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why this movie stands apart from the rest in a really cool, interesting way. But then I gotta dig into this now.
Can I say one thing first?
Yes.
The interesting thing, like Guy Pearce's whole monologue about like he's like, why be the face of terror when you can get someone else to do it? Put it on someone else. He's like, that way I don't have to deal with it. He's kind of looking at it even as from like maybe a business standpoint.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't have to deal with that now. I just manage it.
Yeah.
That way I can focus on the actual work, which is his exploding people bombing research stuff. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So this leads to from 2011 to 2014, Marvel did these short films with like good production design, the real actors, live action, all that stuff, and they were called Marvel one-shots. So there's a couple about like Agent Coulson doing S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff, but then there's one...
Where did they air this?
They were on the DVDs.
Oh.
So then there was one that came out on the Thor the Dark World DVD in 2014 called All Hail the King. And in it, Trevor's in prison, Mr. Ben Kingsley, and he's being interviewed by Scoot McNairy, the guy from True Detective and countless other things. And the whole thing, according to Shane Black, now, so it was directed and written by Drew Pearce, who's one of the writers of this movie. Shane Black, I saw an interview where he was like, so a lot of people didn't like the Mandarin twist, so Marvel made this whole movie to make up for that. This whole Marvel one-shot thing.
Okay.
Drew Pearce was like, I had the idea in production and I liked the idea.
Okay.
But I watched it today. It's like 14 minutes. But in it, they're interviewing, Scoot McNairy's interviewing Ben Kingsley. And he's kind of like, why would you impersonate Mandarin? Why would you do all this and stuff? And basically, they go through a lot of legwork to be like, you know that Mandarin is a real person, right? And he's actually out there. So it is kind of cool because they're like you are gonna get that arch nemesis, but at the same time it's a little bit like
you kind of erased a lot of what you just did.
Right, and it does work the way they did it. It does work, but there's a couple of comments that they say that are very like it's just saying like because Ben Kingsley he says something like or Scoot McNairy says people reacted very poorly to you portraying Mandarin. And then he says, yeah, like online trolls and stuff like that really get at an actor who's really into a role. It's
not subtle at all.
Yeah, so not very subtle. And then you find out that Scoot is like a part of the Mandarin scheme and he like shoots everybody.
I'm done talking about this.
Well, no, I think it's just interesting.
Okay.
That it's part of the series. It's interesting that they would go to that much trouble because like people freaked out over this that much. I just want to put that into perspective.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Feige recently in April he confirmed that Mandarin is going to be a part of the future of Marvel, but he didn't say like in TV or movies or what.
Okay.
Anyway, all of that to say, I just think that that's really fascinating that people could get. It plays into that culture, of like making petitions to remake Game of Thrones or making petitions to remake Last Jedi. Like people get that upset and then you kind of force something that's kind of contrived. I trust that Marvel will do it well, but it is a little like, just accept that it's a cool twist in a movie.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. I have nothing to say.
Well, so let's just skip ahead. They got to save the president. They got to have a big final battle. Guy Pearce shoots fire out of his mouth, which I did not like.
Oh, bad. Very bad. The cool thing, the big end showdown battle, pretty long like usual. Mm-hmm. But the cool thing is Tony calls all of his Iron Man suits to aid them, which I think was really, really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So they're fighting all of the fire people, and then throughout all of it, Pepper falls into a fiery pit.
Yeah.
And Tony can't save her in time. And then eventually, as you would guess, Tony explodes Guy Pearce, and you're like, oh, he's gone. Then Tony like falls to the ground, mm-hmm. and Guy Pearce is back. Oh, shocker.
Yeah.
So, Tony's kind of like at his wit's end. He doesn't really have any fight left in him, or just like materials to fight with. And then Gwyneth Paltrow comes out of the fire. Her clothes aren't burned off. That doesn't make sense.
Well, none of the other people's clothes burned off.
I know, and I understand why. I understand people, listeners.
It's PG-13.
I understand why, and it's not. I guess apparently it was worth enough for me to mention it, but it's really not worth it. But so she kills Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
Because she was injected with the fire serum stuff. Yeah. That's why she didn't die.
Yeah.
And then. But later on, Tony fixes her.
Yeah. Off screen. He just says a comment about being able to do it. He shows up to his old decrepit house, and he says,
well, they get the metal out of his heart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're able to fix the shrapnel, and then he's like...
it's interesting because they could have fixed it the whole time.
Yeah.
But remember, he chose not to because, like, this is who I am now.
Yeah.
But it's almost as if that like... thing that was trying to kill his heart was defining him, mm-hmm. and it's like he wouldn't let that hardcore thing define him any longer.
Yeah,
and he's getting rid of it.
And then he says, "But one thing's for sure: without that, all that other stuff, I am Iron Man." And the movie ends. So
great! I love that ending.
Very, very cool. It's So now we've covered the movie very thoroughly, might I add, mm-hmm. listener. Now let's dig into the series as a whole. So one, tracking his character arc. So Iron Man is the star of 3 of the movies, and so I was kind of thinking it through and throwing your opinions. In Iron Man 1, he's an egotistical man who, there's the weapons element and stuff that you already covered, but by the end of the movie, he finds value and control in his work. Mm-hmm. And then in Iron Man 2, he still finds value and control in his work, but he also learns to trust and value and give his control to other people.
Also honoring his father's legacy. Yes. Like embracing his family, true. Which he in the past couldn't.
Yes. And then in this one, it kind of comes full circle because he's been such an egotistical character. But in this one, he is finally able to go to find his value and control, not in his work, but in himself and in the way of like, I accept who I am. Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need a suit to be Iron Man.
Yeah, and that's that's good writing, people. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Which out of the 3, like, what's your ranking?
I've been thinking a lot about 1 and 2 again, and we really liked 2. But I think I might go 2 at the bottom.
Micah, Sam Rockwell was in the movie.
I know.
It's an easy choice.
Yeah, It's just I remember there was some. I re-listened to our Iron Man 2 episode, and it was. Yeah, it is pretty.
It's 3-2-1.
It is 3-2-1. I guess it's hard to stand steady because people really hate Iron Man 2. That one gets a lot of flack.
Your opinion doesn't have to be everyone else's.
I know.
Micah.
But I'm trying to. Yeah, you're right. But 3 is the best.
Yes.
That I will stand on, and I think I'll say this as well. If you just add in the 7 movies, Iron Man 3 is my favorite, pretty easily above the Phase 1 movies.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
And we're going to have updated rankings as we go, people. But I know at the end of the Avengers episode, I said my favorite was Iron Man Or Iron Man 2,
Iron Man 2, I think, was both of ours.
But the one that's sitting with me so well is Captain America. I think that one goes up to 1 for me on phase 1.
Just funny enough. You know, it's so interesting so far, and I think, I don't know, I just, hated Marvel for most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And
what a waste, right?
Well, but I still I saw most of the movies still. I still would see them because that's what you do. You go see a Marvel movie. So far, the only one I really, truly dislike is Thor.
And Incredible Hulk.
Oh, I forgot that was a movie.
Yeah.
I thought we weren't considering it anymore. But it's just as Thor. It's like, I would probably rewatch all of the other ones. I don't know about Avengers. That one's pretty boring. But, it's still interesting and exciting because it's the first time they're all together. But, I was expecting this to just be, such a grueling thing that we were going to go through.
Yeah, me too.
And so far, it's been very nice.
It's been pretty fun. Yeah, I thought we'd be pretty burned out, especially because in between doing phase 1 and phase 2, we saw Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
And I saw it twice. And there's just so many superhero movies, but again, this one provides a totally fresh take on the character. It's a detective story. It's really funny and quippy.
Yeah.
Whereas the other ones are funny, but this one has that snappy, well-written humor.
Yes.
And I don't dig the final scene too much, but I'm not gonna really count that against the movie.
No, it's like the same thing with the fire people effects. It's just it's a superhero movie.
Yeah.
It's just, you're gonna get that.
And we can expect better, but I mean, we gotta accept what we have.
Amen.
But okay, so we agree on that, on the Iron Man stuff. So I think, again, because it's such a weird series, because there's series within series, I think that it would be hard to watch this movie without Avengers. Do you agree?
Yeah, because of all of the anxiety and stuff.
Yeah, I think you'd have to, if you wanted to just watch Iron Man, you'd have to go 1, 2, Avengers 3.
I think so too.
And then Avengers would be very confusing because you wouldn't know Captain or Thor. You could get away without Thor, but still.
You would still enjoy it though.
But yeah, now we're starting to get into where it's it's complicated. It's getting more and more complicated, and if you miss certain movies, you might be a little behind the 8 ball here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Next is Winter Soldier.
Next is Thor: The Dark World.
Oh, brother.
So we said all that about really liking Marvel, but this one is easily either my second to the bottom or my bottom. It's between Ant-Man and this movie, so I don't know which one it's going to be.
I've avoided so long to have watched this movie, and I never thought I would have a reason to watch it.
And you've never seen Thor.
I'm telling you, I never thought I would have a reason to watch it, and I've been avoiding this movie.
Yeah.
Now I have to watch it.
The only hope I'm clinging to, because I remember watching this movie, I wanted to see Civil War, and I was behind 4 movies. So I was like, okay, I've got to watch these movies. And I watched Thor: The Dark World, and I was by myself. And I remember kind of getting up and getting food and saying to myself out loud, just that the whole time, just moaning and shrugging. But the thing I'm clinging hope to is that from here on out in this podcast, spoilers for Avengers Endgame, because we've seen it now. In Avengers Endgame, when Thor and Rocket go back in time, they go back to Thor: The Dark World. So I'm hoping that will help me like this movie more. I don't know if it will, but I think it's a possibility.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thanks for listening and probably trying to sparse together everything we've been saying the whole time. And if you're lost, that's okay.
Well, I would thank you for listening, because we did a great job. That's what I say. Rate, review, and subscribe.
Please.
Let's get some more. All you have to do is press that 5-star.
This podcast is like Pokemon. We're trying to catch them all.
Yeah.
Listeners, that is.
Bye.